What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Well Man's Podcast. My name is Brian Brosey, joined by my friend and co-host Keoni Tita. Keoni, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. Today, Brian, I wanted to talk about cancer. And one of the reasons why I want to talk about it, especially from a functional medicine perspective or integrative medicine perspective, is because a lot of times when people get a diagnosis of a cancer, they will go to their doctor and their doctor just pulls them off of all their supplements, right? And the thought is a lot of these supplements create a lot of have a lot of antioxidants in them, right? So if you're treating cancer with like radiation or even chemotherapy, what you're doing is creating a lot of oxidants, and those oxidants help kill the cancer. And those oxidants also help destroy your healthy cells also. Mm-hmm. And I really want to talk about this today because there are natural products out there that are not stereotypical antioxidants, and they should be taken in conjunction with conventional chemotherapy or conventional cancer care, because they're not going to inhibit treatment, and they're also not going to cause any negative side effects, and they may even potentiate treatment. So I wanted to bring up some of those things in regards to a specific factor that conventional cancer treatment actually targets. And that factor or molecular molecule is called vascular endothelial growth factor, and or VEGF. And as you can get from the name, is it's causing the increase of vasculature so that the cancer can grow. You know, as you increase blood vessel growth, you're actually getting a blood supply to cancer. And what cancer does, as it gets to a certain size, it will actually start trying to grow its own blood supply. And by doing that, it significantly enhances its growth. And when it enhances its growth, then you're more likely to have cancer metastasize and spread out through the body. So in chemotherapy or in cancer treatment, this is one of the targets. You want to inhibit this vascular endothelial growth factor that cancer actually helps produce, and it even kind of co-ops your own cells to produce it for itself. You know, so if chemotherapy can kind of target vascular endothelial growth factor, then what are you doing? You're basically cutting off the supply line or the blood supply for cancer. And there's a number. Go ahead.
Is that how the treatment works today, Keoni, or is that like a newfound?
No, there's been drugs in the works for a while that target that. And currently there are better with each subsequent generation of drugs. These drugs get more and more targeted and are more specific for how they attack or decrease the vascular supply to cancer. Mm-hmm. This is not the only way to attack cancer. This is just one specific way to do it. And there are a number of drugs that do it. And usually the drugs by themselves, when they actually attack VEG or stop the blood supply or help stop it by themselves, they don't really work great. But in combination with other chemo drugs, they're getting some pretty neat results with just conventional cancer therapy alone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
This is bringing up like an obvious gap in my knowledge. What is the definition of chemotherapy? Because when we say chemo drug, is it a specific drug? Is receiving chemo treatment a specific drug, or is it a group of drugs, general, how we treat cancer, general classification?
Yeah,
we throw these 4 or 5 things, and that's
what. So chemotherapy is just it can be one drug, a few drugs, any drugs that use its chemicals that are usually synthetic. Many of them derive from plant-based chemicals. Okay, some of them are not, but it can be a cocktail of drugs that, based on their chemical makeup, help inhibit cancer. Unfortunately, it also can cause problems for natural cells. So chemotherapy, I just think about chemo as chemical treatment of cancer. You can think
Okay.
about it that way. I have used the moniker natural chemotherapy. That's just a cocktail of natural therapeutics that also help attack cancer. Chemotherapy is one modality of conventional cancer treatment, the others being radiation and then also surgery. Those are kind of the standards there. The chemo drugs are getting very specific now. There's the immunotherapy drugs. There's, now we have the mRNA technology that may really help a lot with cancer also. There was just a recent study out, I think it was with colorectal cancer, that was pretty advanced, where everybody in that group with the conventional treatment were cured, or that had the cancer disappeared based on the specific treatment, which is fascinating to me and very exciting. I think cancer can be one of these things where it's no longer going to be a death sentence with stage 4 cancer. In many instances right now, it is not. So I think we should be optimistic, or at least happy that for most cancers, there are some decent treatments out there that can extend life. The issue with them are the side effects and the other problems that go with them. And that's part of the reason why I want to talk about some natural chemo drugs or botanical medicines or natural therapeutics that can really help potentiate chemotherapy. And I just will direct people that are listening to this podcast. We've done a general, I think we did 2 podcasts on cancer treatment and how to kind of look at it from a general kind of perspective. We went through lifestyle stuff that can help. This is going to be more specific for attacking, that vascular endothelial growth factor, which is a natural thing in our body. Our body uses this growth factor to increase its blood supply when it needs to. Like if you get hypertrophy of muscles from working out, you get a secretion of this. Exercise helps secrete that. You get this naturally happening if you have damage to your heart, where it loses some blood supply, where you have to regrow some blood vessels and stuff like that. Your body naturally does this. The problem is when you have cancer can co-opt these mechanisms in the surrounding microenvironment and use your own cellular machinery to do this for its own purposes. So therefore, it takes nutrients away from the body and helps the cancer grow. So there's actual chemo drugs that can be part of a cocktail of chemotherapy that can either be standalone or could be used in conjunction with other drugs that attack this vascular endothelial growth factor and basically inhibits it. And it's important because these drugs have side effects. Many of them have toxicity side effects that affect the cardiovascular system and also are toxic to the kidneys. So a lot of times with these drugs, you'll see things like hypertension, you'll see protein starting to spill into the urine. Sometimes you will see if the vascular endothelial growth factor is a lot, what you'll see is that you'll start seeing edema present in some of these, in the limbs of cancer patients, or ascites in their abdomen where they're gaining fluid from that. Because what it does is it increases permeability in the vasculature, and it causes leakage of fluids from the blood vessels into the body cavities. And when you see that in somebody, it's usually indicative that the cancer is spreading. And it's also indicative that some of these drugs need to be put into the chemo cocktail to inhibit that, because it is closely correlated, that hyperpermeability, and is closely correlated with malignancy, and just gaining fluid in the body, and it just basically the thing that, well, let me put it this way: the thing that helps promote a significant increase into this veg from the cancer cells and the surrounding cells in the cancer microenvironment, what you're getting is you're getting inflammatory processes, you're getting a little bit of hypoxia, low oxygen levels, you're getting some acidosis, and all of that creates an environment, like a microenvironment, that tells the cancer cells that we need to grow. It's kind of like an uncomfortable environment for cancer, so that it needs to grow and spread. And that's how cancer kind of helps itself evolve and spread outside of a 2 millimeter like tumor that may be in your body and sitting silent for a while.
Right.
So the issue though is so that's one thing. But when you put these cytotoxic drugs in there, like chemotherapy, now you're significantly changing the microenvironment of that cancer, where the cancer, again, think about it from an evolutionary perspective. If you don't kill it quickly, if you don't get rid of it and you don't get to the stem cells quickly, that cancer is going to evolve quickly. And so a lot of times with cancer treatment, you'll see, people go through chemotherapy and then all of a sudden, they'll get their scans back and they'll look really good after the first go around. And then, their doctor wants to check on them every few months or so, every 6 months. And then in a percentage of these patients, the cancer comes back, and it can come back with a vengeance, because it's evolved from the cytotoxic treatments, and those treatments no longer work anymore. So you can't go back to the same treatment, because the cancer has evolved, and it's quickly evolving. It's kind of like a virus. It's quickly evolving, and therefore you need a new chemical cocktail of drugs to take care of this cancer. Well, the nice thing about botanical meds that are used in conjunction with these cytotoxic conventional drugs is botanical medicines hit cancer in so many different ways. They can attack all the biochemical pathways of not only vascular endothelial growth factor in many different ways, whereas chemo drugs are really kind of just targeted one biochemical pathway. So it's very easy for cancer to kind of steer itself around that. But the beautiful thing about botanicals is it hits it in so many different ways that it's like blocking off, side streets and everything else from a getaway car to where it can't escape anymore. And that's why I really think it's very important to, if somebody has cancer, to find somebody who is well versed in cancer treatment, but not only conventional cancer treatment, but also with using botanical meds with it, so that you don't inhibit the conventional treatment, but you also take care of the negative side effects, and you potentiate, without creating more negative side effects, the efficacy of the current cancer regimen that you're on. And that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because a lot of people don't know or have the wherewithal with their oncologist. Like, they'll go to their oncologist and be like, well, I'm taking this supplement, that supplement. A lot of the oncologists be like, well, just get off all of them. And to me, that may do harm. I can kind of understand oncologists being like really weary of high antioxidants, especially when going through cancer treatment. Like if you're going through radiation treatment and you're taking tons of vitamin C and a really high potency multivitamin, I just tell I don't necessarily agree with this, but I just tell my patients, like, if that's what your oncologist is saying, yeah, just get off of it. We can always get back on those later. But there are things that you can take that can help potentiate the treatment by attacking the cancer in many different ways. One of these ways is by attacking vascular endothelial growth factor. Other ways are by inhibiting metastasis through supplements. One of those supplements might be like modified citrus pectin or some type of fiber that has shown efficacy there. Another way is to decrease inflammation. There's all these other ways, but today specifically, I want to talk about, or just give people ideas of natural products that will attack or kind of hit this vascular endothelial growth factor without causing harm to their conventional treatment. Now, as always, Brian, I mean, I'm trained as a primary care physician. I know you're trained as a doctor of physical therapy. So we're certainly not experts on this topic. So I always recommend people, find an expert in this topic. I mean, I'm certainly happy to help people refer to that. I do see people with cancer, and I do give them ideas of what they can do, but I also will use some of my other colleagues to add to their healthcare team with that. So,
well said. What are some of these?
So some of these, are things that are very simple that your doctor would never even have a problem with, really. Like they're not going to tell you. I tell people, like, there's a lot of antioxidants and plant chemicals in food that you can get that can really help treat. So if all else fails, like if your oncologist says, look, I don't want you taking anything, I don't care, it's just anecdotal. I mean, certainly I could show them plenty of evidence, but if their doctor says that, and even if you as the patient is like, well, I'm going to listen to my oncologist, that's great. But one thing your doctor will not say is they will not say, don't eat a bowl of blueberries. They won't say, don't add cinnamon to your oatmeal. They won't say, don't drink green tea with your breakfast or have a cup, at every meal. They won't say, oh, you eat that bitter melon. That's a vegetable that's very popular in Asian cuisine that actually has some inhibitory effect on vascular endothelial factor. Or they won't say don't eat curry. Like, how many times we talked about curcumin, right?
Right.
Which is a chemical constituent of turmeric. They won't say don't eat mushrooms. So some of these things you can actually add to your diet if you know what you're doing, and really, put a dent or in cancer and really enhance your treatment. Now, a lot of these things are not stereotypical. A lot of these things that I just mentioned are not stereotypical antioxidants. Like, for example, like a lot of the B vitamins are, or vitamin C, or a lot of things that you find in a multi. And so, a lot of these things should be taken. And if a oncologist is aware of this, they're certainly not going to worry about you taking mushroom extracts to help with their cancer, which I usually recommend for all my cancer patients. In very few situations do I not recommend them, and they're not stereotypical antioxidants, and they can really help with chemotherapy. And one of the ways mushroom extracts, especially medicinal mushrooms, I'm talking specifically about mushrooms like reishi or chagas or turkey tail, even even the white button mushrooms that you'll get at the food store can have some positive impact. But specifically reishi and chagas mushroom, these are things you can find through an herbalist or through somebody like myself that you can take. Will attack vascular endothelial growth factor and will help cut off the blood supply to cancer, so that it's going to have a hard time growing, and will work with your chemotherapy or your current cancer therapy to slow it down. Wow. So those are just some things, and that's why I want to talk about it, because a lot of people will just listen to their oncologist and be like, oh, well, I shouldn't take any of this, when there's a lot that you can do on your own. It kind of gives you some control, instead of feeling like you're just hanging out in the wind and being controlled by the conventional medical model, which, I have no problem. It definitely saves lives, but let's do the best that we can without inhibiting either the natural side or the conventional side to get an effect.
Yeah. Yeah. And add some confidence that you can do something about it. Like you said,
right.
Have a hand in it.
Right. So, so what we're looking for is we're looking for, the herbal medicine in conjunction with nutritional medicine to create like a network synergistic effect that targets the disease process in all of its networks, right? So go back and listen to our other podcasts we talk about on cancer, because we talk about fasting, we talk about getting appropriate sleep to boost your immune system, we talked about curcumin and things like that. And then it also works to making drug resistance, conventional drug resistance, less likely, especially when you're using a multi-targeted approach. This is why conventional chemotherapy is rarely one drug. They use a bunch of drugs together to kind of do what plant medicine already does. All right. It just adds a lot of bang for its buck in one of those conventional chemotherapeutic agents. But when you combine it with herbal medicine, you're doing the best of both worlds to really help. And in my clinical practice, you just see much, much better outcomes when you do this, but you have to know what you're doing. And, going on Facebook and just reading, oh, this product helps with cancer, this product helps with cancer. It doesn't matter what natural product you're talking about, you'll see some benefit for cancer. What matters is just knowing what will combine well while you're going through treatment. So today I just wanted to tell people, like, if you're just going to be one of these off the shelf people who, don't want to take the time to see somebody like me or somebody more specialized than me that specifically looks at cancer in this way,
Right.
then these are some of the things you can do on your own that really aren't going to be a big problem at all.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
In most cases, again, but I recommend get somebody who's knowledgeable about that. And that's part of my training, and that's part of, like, the true experts in my field are people who've had extra training that are specific in cancer. So, and I consult with a lot of these people in my practice.
Yeah. Great time to pump up the Wellman's podcast salad. That would fit perfectly in your diet.
Exactly.
Get the recipe for free.
Yes, it would. We did that podcast way back when. I still get compliments on that salad from various people. Yeah,
the salad is phenomenal. But we have an episode on it, and then there's links and a bunch of show notes to where you can download like a written out PDF with the recipe on it.
Right. Okay, so basically what we want to do is we want to use herbal stuff, natural stuff, as anti-angiogenic therapy. So I basically went through the literature to look up a number of natural products, herbs, and stuff that have been shown to specifically attack vascular endothelial growth factor. There are drugs out there that specifically do this, the chemo drugs. So I wanted to give you an idea of natural stuff that does this. So let's just go through I'll try to be quick about it, because we can talk about each one of these herbs. Really, we could do a podcast on each one of these. So I don't want to bore people with this stuff. But the first one, let's go through, is ginseng. Everybody's heard about the herb ginseng, right?
Yes.
There was a study that showed ginseng, when the gut microbiome kind of chews on it and gets to and creates metabolites of the ginseng, it showed significant and anti-angiogenic effects on certain types of cancer, like pulmonary, gastric, and ovarian cancer. It basically has an additive anti-angiogenic effect. It is one of those things that you're probably not going to get in trouble with if you are taking it according to, even the dosing on the bottle, no matter what type of ginseng you get. It has been shown to increase the concentration of chemotherapeutic drug paclitaxel in tumors. So that's really cool, right? So you're taking this herbal compound that's in ginseng, or they're specifically called gisenicides, and what they do is they basically concentrate the chemo drug within the cells of the tumor, and that's where you want the chemo drug to be, to kill it off. So that's pretty neat, right?
Yeah.
So a plant medicine working with chemotherapy to concentrate the poison where it needs to be, instead of throughout the whole body. Another few things that I do with my cancer patients, one of the things that I will do is give them adaptogenic herbs. We did a podcast on adaptogenic herbs way back when, so people can just look at that. But just go to the Wellman's podcast, just Google that in the search bar. But anyway,
for some reason I think it might be episode 28. Don't quote
me. Really? Okay, cool. I don't know it off the top of my head, but anyway, adaptogens, and ginseng is an adaptogen, but there are other adaptogens that work like ginseng. One of my favorite ones is rhodiola. Again, this basically inhibits the cancer induced in angiogenesis. So it causes the cancer to stop secreting compounds that will form these blood vessels and then give it a blood supply. Rhodiola combines well. You'll see them in a lot of adaptogenic formulas. It combines well with ginseng. Another adaptogen is ashwagandha or Withania semnifera, and that one also has it's been shown, at least in cell cultures, to be cytotoxic to many cancers, especially the compound withaferin A. All right, and that one is the main compound that's been shown, and it has a potential interaction, an anti-angiogenic interaction that inhibits VEG. It's pretty powerful in what it does based on the studies, especially the animal studies. I mean, I'd love to see bigger studies on all of these things, but the fact of the matter is these compounds, these herbs, if you take them, they're not going to hurt you. They're not going to hurt you with the chemotherapy and will likely give you plenty of benefit. I mean, a lot of these adaptogens, when you give them to people going through cancer, it just helps them fly through the side effects where they're not a big deal. And a lot of these adaptogens also help boost your own immune system, which is very important, right? Because one of the things about chemotherapy is it knocks down your immune system to almost nil. That's just why a lot of times when you're going through cancer treatment, they'll want to test your blood constantly to see what your white blood cells are. And if they're too low, they can't give you treatment. Well, a lot of times you can continue treatment by taking on these adaptogenic type substances.
Wow.
Another one is called thymoquinone. This one is found in Nigella sativa. That is, Nigella. It's basically, they look like black sesame seeds. It's used a lot in the Indian subcontinent, in their cuisine. It's basically it's considered a cure-all in the Middle East. Anyway, they look like little black sesame seeds. But they're not. It's called Nigella, and the main compound is thymoquinone. And again, it is one of those it's one of those things that will also seems to directly attack VEG at the cell receptor level. Wow. This is something you could sprinkle on your food. It goes well in curries. It goes well sprinkled on steaks. You can find it at a spice shop. Sometimes a specialty spice shop store, you'll find it there. But you certainly can find it at a lot of Asian or Indian grocers or something like that. You can find it there. Mushrooms, one of my favorites for attacking veg is reishi. It's Ganoderma lucidum, and this mushroom has been used for well over 2,000 to 3,000 years in traditional Chinese medicine, and it's known to just it's known as an anti-aging mushroom. Basically, it slows down the aging process, but specifically for cancer, it suppresses VEG expression. And also what it will do, the thing I love about mushrooms, it will boost your natural NK killer cells. Most of the medicinal mushrooms will do this. And those are the main cancer killing cells. Definitely. So when I'm bringing up all these compounds here, these herbs, we're attacking cancer in a number of ways, but we're specifically talking about veg. So the one thing I will say about mushroom extracts, you just want to make sure you're getting them from a good source. And that's something where I can help people do it. Because if you're just buying stuff willy-nilly over the counter, you may not be getting the best source. And that goes for a number of mushrooms. Mm-hmm. Next one, who hasn't had green tea? Camellia sinensis. And the main compound in there that's studied the most is EGCG, or epigallocatechin 3 gallate. And
that was tremendous. Definitely went scribble with that one.
Yeah, that has, this EGCG has a lot of research on it. I think for cancer treatment, you're going to be better off taking the green tea supplements with EGCG. But however, depending on what your oncology team or your healthcare team is thinking about, you may just want to get a good green tea and drink it, throughout the day, a couple cups, 2 to 3, 4 cups a day, at the very least. I mean, I can't say enough about curcumin. Curcumin is the constituent in turmeric. I think of all the natural herbs supplements out there, I think curcumin has the most research on it as far as attacking cancer in so many different ways. It does specifically attack, it inhibits VEG, so it stops that pathway also. It's one of the many biochemical pathways that it helps in stopping cancer. There's very few, there are very few chemotherapeutic drugs where it is not indicated or doesn't help. This is where you definitely want to make sure you're getting talking to somebody who's a bit of an expert with this. It's synergistic with an NSAID like Celebrex, which then Celebrex has been used and has been shown to have anti-cancer activity also. And it's also been shown to potentiate other chemotherapeutic drugs. Celebrex is kind of stereotypical NSAID, not stereotypically known as as a chemotherapeutic drug, but it is used in cancer treatment and it combines well with curcumin. Another one is quercetin. Quercetin is found in high amounts in onions. This has also been shown to inhibit VEG. And, you can't go wrong with that. Like, who's going to tell you to stop eating onions or don't eat apples? Both of these things have that in there. This is part of the reason why it's very important. And this is to, definitely you want to do this before you get a cancer diagnosis, but this is important why you should eat a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. I mean, that's why study after study shows that it reduces your risk of cancer. So,
damn, here we are again.
Yeah.
Fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
And
Eat
live
your
a general
vegetables,
healthy
right.
lifestyle.
Yeah. Another one is the silymarin. That's milk thistle. That's an herb. This herb is well known. It's known typically as a liver supporting herb. Well, it's also inhibits vascular endothelial growth factor again. This is not stereotypically known as a antioxidant by any means, but it can help keep your liver healthy. It supports the body. It can help keep your kidneys healthy and decrease the negative side effects of chemotherapeutic drugs. The specific compound in there that they're looking at most of the time is silibinin, and that compound in milk thistle, it's funny because when you look at this, a lot of the pathways that cancer kind of grows or uses biochemical pathways, this particular compound seems to attack all these pathways and put a block to them so that cancer can't grow. So does much more than just attacking vascular endothelial growth factor. So those are just a few. There are plenty of others. I could go on and on here, and I will. At the beginning of the podcast, I talked about Mamortica extract. That's bitter melon, right? And that, especially in breast cancer, that one seemed to have an anti-metastatic effect, specifically in a number of ways, but specifically attacking VEG and inhibiting that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, what else?
Keoni, can we get when you're done, can we get the run through real quick, just so I know people are probably writing it down.
Yep, I will. I want to bring up one or two more that are pretty simple for people, so they will know. Cinnamon, and it is any type of cinnamon has been shown to also inhibit VEG. There are many types of different cinnamons out there, but I think the ones that are the most potent ones are the cinnamons that are native kind of to India and Sri Lanka. I think if you went to health food stores, you could see the different types of cinnamons and get them and use them. But cinnamon is something that it has a lot of antioxidants in there, but I just can't, it's like, your oncologist is telling you not to eat blueberries. Adding in your food, it can help with cancer treatment. And then another one that people know of that is considered an antioxidant is tocotrienols, which is a component of vitamin E. And it's been shown to, especially in ovarian cancer, inhibit this VEG. So let's just go through a rundown. Oh, before we do that, let me add one more. all things olive. So
Hmm.
compounds in olives, olive leaf, olives, extra virgin olive oil.
It is like you built a pyramid of the Mediterranean diet, taking us through that.
Right. Pretty
Pretty
much.
close. Add a little
Pretty
spice.
much. Yeah. So, and I know I'm going these fast, and it just seems like I'm just, pulling, whole foods out of the air and stuff and using herbs, but these things have specific research on them as
Right.
far as vascular, inhibiting vascular endothelial growth factor. And so
Yeah.
I really wanted to give people foods that can help them. Another one is pomegranate. When pomegranate's in season, you should eat it. Pomegranate juice has an anti-obesity effect. It's cardiovascular. It protects your cardiovascular system. It also inhibits vascular endothelial growth factor. Specifically, the compound in there is called ellagic acid. And so there are compounds of ellagic acid that you can use. And it is true. I mean, you're going to get more bang for your buck in fighting cancer if you're taking these compounds in concentrated forms, like instead of just doing pomegranate, like getting a supplement of ellagic acid and taking mega doses of that. But all things being the same, like even if you can't do that, or for some reason couldn't afford that, or your oncologist says not to, having pomegranate is great to add to your regimen
Yeah.
of fighting cancer.
It's a real shame that this information is just, that United Health, fill in the blank, health insurance company or whatever, as soon as you get a diagnosis like this, doesn't just shoot over, I don't know, the Well Man's podcast with all this stuff.
Well, right, because it gives people some autonomy, right? And it makes people feel like they are in control. And it's not, this is not pseudoscience medicine. And, as you know, I'm not into that. I mean, I want to
Right.
use evidence-based, and I want to use evidence-based stuff as long as it's not going to hurt people, right? And none of this is going to hurt them or inhibit treatment. But still, with somebody who's going through cancer, they do really want to, talk to a doctor who's well versed in this stuff and is aware of it. Your
Certainly.
conventional oncologist is not aware of this stuff. They don't study it. They're not aware of it. Their whole paradigm is chemotherapeutic treatment. And not to say that does not have some benefit, but let's get the most benefit we can.
Yeah. The sad reality is they probably have 100 patients so that day, so they just don't have the time to download this information into you.
Right. And also there's a bit of cognitive dissonance with it too, right? It's like,
sure.
if you're not trained in this stuff, you kind of poo-poo it, and I kind of get it. It goes both ways, whatever side of the spectrum you're on. So I just want to, let's find some type of middle ground where both forms of treatment can potentiate each other and help each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things I do, like if somebody's going through chemotherapy, there is some things, like if you're taking supplements with copper, I'll get them off of that, just so people know. If you're taking copper, a multivitamin with copper in it, sometimes this can promote angiogenesis, so you want to be careful with that. So I really, there are some foods that are higher in copper and stuff, but really it's the copper supplements or things that have high amounts of copper that can do that. So let's just go down the list real quick, and so people know.
And so these are foods, nutraceuticals, supplements, and herbs that essentially will have demonstrated research that they limit that that angiogenesis, the growth of blood vessels that would feed and provide food to cancer to do its
thing. Right. And I'm just gonna go down a list and name a few of these. Well, actually, I'll go down my whole list that I have that have some research on it without going into detail, so people will know. And then I'll just highlight the things on my list that you can really get through diet. Okay. Or you could get some benefit through diet. All right.
Yeah, perfect.
So we talked about ginseng, which is an adaptogenic herb, rhodiola and withinia, and ashwagandha. Those are all adaptogenic herbs. I usually recommend somebody that's going through cancer treatment to be on some type of adaptogenic herbal supplement. The reason why I do that is because it just keeps your immune system in check. I mean, a lot of the times when you do that, your immune system doesn't bottom out from the chemotherapy.
Mm,
So now that's not readily available. You're not going to be able to get that, find that in food. All right.
mhm.
But the next one you can, and it's more of a spice, and that's Nigella sativa. That's the black sesame seed. It's not sesame seed. It's called Nigella sativa. So it's not, it doesn't taste like sesame seed, but people say black sesame seed or it's black seed oil. That may be that's one way you'll find it, but it's the thymoquinone in that.
Okay.
Mushrooms of all sorts, but specifically the one that I talked about with reishi and chaga mushroom. There
Hmm.
are plenty of other mushrooms that do that, but those two had some pretty good research on inhibiting vascular endothelial growth factor. Curcumin, it's found in the herb turmeric. All right. Um, that's a great one to think about. Quercetin, it's found in apple skins, high amounts in onions. Onions are great. Milk thistle, you can go to a health food store and get milk thistle tea, milk thistle seed. It's known as a liver herb, so that one shouldn't be hard for people to get. Andrographis, yes, you'll have to go through somebody like me to get that. That's an herb. We didn't specifically talk about that. It's been used in Chinese medicine for thousands of years. It's more stereotypically known as an antiviral, but has some powerful anti-cancer effects, including the inhibitory effects on VEGF. Baikal silensis, or Chinese skullcap. It's another herb used for thousands of years in Chinese medicine. And another one called Danshen, Salvia miltariza. It's another one I use a lot in my clinic. That one also attacks cancer in a multiple ways. Bitter melon, Mormetica extract. Bitter melon you can find at any Asian grocery store that's worth its weight. I mean, if it's a good Asian grocery store, it's going to have bitter melon, and you can find recipes on how to cook all that. Yeah, it's better to use the extracts because you get more concentration of it. But if that's all you have, that stuff, eating it can help. Asiatic acid, we didn't talk about it, but it's in the herb gotu-kola. That herb is great. You would have to go through somebody like me to get it. And a lot of these things you want to kind of juggle, and whatever kind of cancer you have based on the research, you would use those things. But in general, you're going to do okay using these without knowing a whole lot.
Yeah.
Hunocoid and then magnolia are compounds that are found in magnolia, and they're found specifically in magnolia bark. Again, these are traditional Chinese medicine constituents. They are used in traditional Chinese medicine for cancer treatment. Traditional Chinese medicine actually kind of has in certain hospitals that treat cancer in China, they use both. They use the traditional Chinese herbs and they use conventional cancer treatment. And the outcomes tend to be much, much better than using one or the other alone. Boswellia is another one. It's basically known as an anti-inflammatory herb, but it attacks veg. Anytime you decrease inflammation, you're going to help cancer anyway. Right here in the southeast, there's the invasive plant called mimosa. It has a beautiful like pink flower. It's a little tree that grows everywhere. You see it on the side of the road, but right now it's in bloom. And that has a lot of research on it too. It's again a traditional Chinese medicine, but you'll see it growing on the side of the streets here. I think it's called Princess Tree or something like that. But anyway, it's called mimosa. There's compounds in there that can really help. St. John's wort is another one. What else? Burdock seed. Burdock root is really interesting. Again, Asian grocery store, you can do burdock root. It really has a wonderful taste if you know what you're doing. It almost has like a carrot taste, but it's doesn't taste like carrot, but it's usually in stir-fried Japanese cuisine, burdock root. But the seed specifically, they're showing inhibits tumor angiogenesis. You grew up in the Southeast. Have you heard of pawpaw? Do you know what pawpaw is? I think we talked about it before. Pawpaw, pawpaw fruit. Pawpaw fruit is all over the Southeast. People don't know this, but it is actually it's actually a fruit that is very hard to kind of bring to market, although they're really trying to, but it grows all over the Southeastern United States. and it looks like a little mango, and it tastes like a cross between a mango and banana. And right now, it's probably actually no. In the fall, you can see the fruits, but the compounds specifically in pawpaw seed have a lot of anti-cancer activity. So these things, that it's really amazing what it will do. And of course, I'm putting it under my list of, inhibiting tumor angiogenesis through inhibiting VEG. Pawpaw seed extracts will do that.
Okay. I have
Yeah,
not heard of that or seen the fruit.
yeah. It has a really unique taste. I mean, some people love it.
Sounds unique.
Yeah.
Banana mango cross.
Yeah, yeah. It you should check it out. It's funny. In the Southeast, they usually have like these pawpaw festivals
Oh,
where you can
man.
go check out go eat them. They have pawpaw ice cream and all this stuff. The problem with it is it's very hard to domesticate. Like it doesn't it ripens really quick. So it's not good to bring to market. You kind of have to grow your own. But it's in the works. But there's a lot of cancer. There's a lot of chemicals in that fruit, in the seed there, that is pretty amazing for cancer. We talked about cinnamon. We talked about all things olive, pomegranate, ellagic acid. I think you're going to do better getting the concentrates like ellagic acid. But if you're going to do pomegranate, eat the whole pomegranate. You'll get a little bit in the juice, but I would eat the whole pomegranate, seeds and all, to get the most bang for your buck as far as fighting cancer. And then last but not least, omega-3 fatty acids found in cold fish, seems to help everything. So as far as helping with chemotherapy and potentiating cancer treatment and attacking, slowing down, cutting off the blood supply to cancer, those are kind of my superstars for inhibiting vascular endothelial growth factor.
You got a good roster there.
Yeah, no, and there's
plenty to your diet.
Right, and there's plenty more, but these are the ones that have kind of the most highlighted research on them.
Right. It really is a shame that it is. I don't know. Just you don't see this all over the place. There's not a commercial for this, which is.
And there's not. It's just the way it's like the way our system is set up, right?
Yeah.
You can't make a whole lot of money off of selling natural products.
Pawpaw.
Yeah, right. But you also don't want to go the other way and, think that, conventional treatment isn't helpful either. I've seen that too, I'm just really a big proponent of using both in combination. I will say this, I'm really optimistic with what I'm seeing in cancer treatment right now. For those of you out there, if you have a what's called a poor prognosis, stage 4 cancer or something like that, it's really cool what's going on right now. Even we're seeing survival rates significantly increased, and with a lot of these immunotherapy drugs that are coming on the market, I think we're getting to a place where we can start calling things cure, which is really neat. So I think within our lifetime, within the next decade or so, most cancers are not gonna be death sentences anymore, and right now we're seeing that now. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, lots of good things to add to your diet, especially with or without cancer diagnosis, and can be extremely helpful for the veg that you mentioned. So that was really interesting. I didn't even know about it's just interesting how many biomechanical little pathways there are, and how we can interact with them and work them into some sort of treatment, stopping essentially cancer at the source of living,
right,
with the blood vessel growth. So it's
right. It's nice to, right? So you can sit down to your meal and be like, all right, I have cancer. My oncologist told me, that just give an example here. So let's say you have cancer. Your oncologist tells you that we're using a drug that attacks vascular endothelial growth factor. A lot of them will. And now you know that eating olives, having some extra virgin olive oil in your dinner, maybe making that rainbow salad we talked about with pomegranate on it, pomegranate seeds, or adding like the black sesame seed, the nigella on there. Or the black seed oil on there. All that can be really, really helpful. Yeah. So it gives you a little bit more ammunition.
Well, you just painted a perfect picture as to why I think you're so beneficial for someone's healthcare team, because it is blending. You don't know about veg without the current science that we have to know the biochemical processes that are doing this veg and what type of
Yeah.
foods you can naturally incorporate to inhibit it and help yourself and all that good stuff. So it really is a combination of both meeting in the middle to give you the
Right.
best
And
possible experience.
so it's like you said, it's a biochemical pathway, vascular endothelial growth factor. And the nice thing about it is it inhibits it at the cancer source. It does not inhibit this is fascinating how plant medicine works. It doesn't inhibit it when your body needs it naturally, which is fascinating to me how that works. It's almost like there's an intelligence to it, especially when you're dealing with plant medicine. Um, um,
Yeah.
it's just fascinating to me how that works. So
Well, and I think on one episode, it may have been the salad episode. I think you told it in this. You initially told us a story about the salad and all the vegetables, or maybe it was within some sort of Chinese medicine, like old kind of saying about these sorts of vegetables and how they provided for the body, and like the purple vegetables had this quality that provided XYZ.
oh yeah. Maybe you're probably talking about like doctrine of signatures, but you also
Yes. Yeah.
doctrine of signatures this is one of the ways, just to refresh people here. This is
Please.
considered, yeah, this is considered like woo woo, or definitely pseudoscientific, but it is one of the ways to get to know plants and medicine. So one of the ways that people would know it is they would look at the specific plant, and of course we'd use our senses. So it's kind of like an empirical investigation. You taste, see, you hear the plant, you sit with the plant and all this. And some plants actually tell you what they're good for, right? According to traditional cultures of botanical medicine, right? So like blueberries are blue matches the veins. So therefore blueberries traditionally have been thought to be good for venous integrity. And lo and behold, when we look at blueberries when we look at the research on it, there are compounds in there that help with venous integrity. Hence, they can help with things like hemorrhoids or the balloon or varicose veins. Another one would be something like walnuts. Walnuts look like, when you actually look at them, they look like tiny brains. And lo and behold, what do we find in walnuts? We see omega-3 fats in there, and your brain is mostly made of omega-3 fats. And there's also a little bit of serotonin in there, some of these neurochemicals that are found in your brain. I can give plenty examples of this. What would be another one? So
Just
for
goes to
example,
show how we use this innate knowledge, and it is kind of
yeah,
built off of this innate very very base level thought, and then you have to combine it with the conventional research, the conventional treatment of today, and then we do find that,
the
I'll be damned,
Western
blueberries
thought.
help. Yeah.
Yeah, right. You see a lot of, you just see a lot of people like, and especially with Western science, like kind of confirms what a lot of the traditional medicine has always said. That's not always the case, but you do see that, And then there's that the old story that I just love about plant medicine, and that's what the some Native Americans believe, that the origins of the universe, there's this big meeting of all the peoples, and that when Native Americans speak, or at least this Cherokee medicine man that told me about it, when they speak about peoples, they speak about all forms of life. So they talk about the grass people, the herb people, the bug people, which includes viruses and all that stuff. And anyway, so the story goes, at the beginning of time, there's this big meeting of all the peoples, including humans, and they were basically having a meeting about getting rid of us, the human people, because the humans were taking advantage of the earth and all that stuff. And everybody wanted to get rid of us. The bear people, everybody, like, look, you guys are just killing us and raping the planet and all this. And the plant people, herb stood up and said, well, you guys can throw any diseases you want at them or whatever, but for every disease you throw at them, we're at least going to give them a way to fight it with our plant medicine. So lo and behold, we look at plants and herbs and foods and all that, and we see a lot of anti-cancer activity and a lot of anti-inflammatory effects. A lot of our conventional drugs come from plants. And so it's a firm belief in especially Native American people, and it's a belief I have too, that for every disease that's out there, there is a plant or plant-based medicine that will help fight it. And this is being confirmed over and over again in science.
Yeah.
And so that's why I want to just go down that list of plants there. And there's a lot more. This is why, you know, a plant-based diet, and I say plant-based diet, this doesn't mean saying espousing a vegan diet or vegetarian diet. A plant-based diet really does decrease your risk of cancer, decrease your risk of obesity. I mean, the plants are doing their job to kind of help you stay healthy in all ways, including cancer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Maybe it shouldn't
Yeah.
be flying spaghetti monster, but flying asparagus that we all worship and really appreciate.
Yeah, we should. We really should. We should really appreciate all our plant people that are out there. You know,
Yeah.
they are here according to medicine to help us, and so that we can help them too. So
Yeah, they're definitely helping us.
yeah.
Anything else, Keoni? Thought that was great.
No. I think that's it. Hopefully, if anybody has any questions, just let us know, and we'll try to answer them as best we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And until next time, be well.
Yep. Be well, everybody. Take care.